see how many people are waiting.
There's a right way to do this. To count down on your fingers for a show, and I forgot it. Oh, it would have been so cool if I remembered.
You're fired, Joe.
Yeah. There goes my book two career.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over. There goes a cat.
There it is.
Fitz, like if I'm doing anything like this, Fitz has got to be in the middle of it. Let's put up a different background. And
you do.
Hello, Okie Dude, Heidi, etc. Yeah, sorry I was a little late. I was just on a chat with Joanna and Philip. And then so in between,
got it.
No,
I was early here.
I had more than enough time to get my shit together and get here. I started editing a video which is meant to go online tomorrow, so I was I got to get this done, and lost track of time. Sorry, everybody.
What video was it?
I am reading Lord of the Rings for the nth time. I don't even know how many times I've read it. And I am vlogging it like the children do these days, like the cool kids, and enjoying it. Actually, I wasn't sure how like vlogging would be, but I've been. It makes for a kind of interrupted reading experience, because sometimes I'll read something and I'm like, oh, I've got to record something about this in the middle of reading, and I'll just stop and record it on my phone quickly and then go back to reading. So it's back and forth a bit. Hello, Rogue. Hello, Daniel Jerone's here. Heidi's here. I already said that. Eros Pingani is here. I don't remember seeing Eros Pingani in the comments before. So maybe new to the channel. Not sure.
Welcome.
Navo's here. Navo's got a break from his D&D game. Which is what you should be doing on a Sunday afternoon. Totally understandable. And Joe is a pub guest for the first time. For anyone who doesn't know Joe, he writes awesome books, and he's not a dickhead. Much better than a dickhead.
I write books.
What are you saying about authors?
Any further promises?
I wasn't making any. Yeah, go pimp yourself, Joe. Do it.
I'm Jason Byrne. You can call me Joe. I wrote The Hybrid Helix. There's 4 books out so far. I've got Partial Function. You can buy this book without the not for resale bar. This is the only copy I happen to have. Middle-aged Mom, Kung Fu Fighting Dinosaurs. It's taken if it starred Michelle Yeoh instead of Liam Neeson and took place on a Jurassic Park-inspired cradle. That's my pitch. That's the best pitch I've ever come up with for a book. Ever.
Wow. Okay.
That's the best pitch I'll ever come up with for a book. This is it. This is the pinnacle of me pitchiness, and it's a standalone.
Nails it.
And then I know. I had these because I had to do this earlier yesterday for Andrew Meredith's indie book pitch thing, like the small business thing. Or I have like 5 minutes to do it, so I have all my accessories, meaning all the books.
Okay.
Wistful Sending, and if you are quick. Wistful Sending you can get for $1 on Amazon, and the sequel Return of the Griffin is free for the rest of the day. So you get the first 2 books for $1.
Well, I learned from watching Matt and Tori's talk over on Matt's channel that pitching your book is actually not an easy thing to do. So it's nice. We
can pitch them in stereo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Matt has book 2 with the cool shark, and you've got the version without the not for resale.
Exactly.
So you can retell that.
If you actually buy it, it looks like this, and it does not have a stupid stripe across the front.
Yeah, that's an you get it early.
Joe very kindly sent these to me quite recently, actually.
Yeah.
Just got them this week.
Yeah.
Joe is partially responsible for my monthly wrap-up being way too long. My November wrap-up is going to be fucking insane because some very generous authors sent me books. I bought another sword. I bought a bunch of Folio Society editions that I probably shouldn't have. I'm going to have so much to talk about for the monthly wrap up. Crazy. But yeah, I've read or audiobooked the first one, Wistful Ascending, and it's basically sci-fi superheroes in space.
And I'm going to give you credit So,
Me credit.
Yeah. So
For
this
what?
is interesting philosophically, or to me, maybe only to me. You tell me. So I listen to a lot of my reviews of my stuff,
Right.
for a variety of reasons. And you were one of the people who definitely gave criticisms that let me understand something about my own writing that I had not understood before, that I have
Okay.
since changed. Because you
Oh,
didn't
cool.
like the pacing. And I spent like months, not like agonizing. I don't mean like, oh my God, and I couldn't sleep. I just meant like, I was thinking about it. Like, why did the pacing not agree with you? And I'm pretty sure I figured out like exactly, I think it's because of cold opens in the chapters. I think that's why it felt episodic, because I had this
Yeah.
habit. I start a chapter
that.
and I'm like, they're in the middle of a conversation. And as you read the first page, you kind of figure out, okay, this is like a day later or like 2 days later. But you
Right.
don't know,
Yep.
I don't frame it in the first sentence, right? So it's like a
Yep.
fresh start. And I think for certain readers, your brain goes, okay, this is a new start. This is a new episode.
Right.
This isn't a continuation of the last chapter. Whereas if the first sentence is 12 hours later, you're in a completely different frame of mind because you instantly know the connection to the preceding events. And it bothered you, and it bothered a beta reader for Blood Reunion, my third book. And after that, I'm like, oh, this is really like chopping it up for certain readers. Some people don't care, right? This
Sure.
everything's relative. But I stopped doing it.
Honestly, I didn't seem to notice that
Some
in the first book, to be honest.
people do. Some people, I mean, it's a minority, but you know, it bothers people. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not worth it. In other words, if it's turning off, making it seem very episodic and choppy to certain readers, it's not useful enough to keep.
Yeah, I'm interested now that I actually have a physical copy of it. I'm interested to try reading it, like reading it.
Might be different.
Because I mean, I'm kind of new to audiobooks.
Right.
And I think audiobooks and the way I have been listening to them automatically makes things feel more choppy necessarily than it might otherwise be, because I'm often doing it when I'm commuting. And when I get to work, I stop. And I might be in the middle of a chapter, or who knows, you know. So I'm not as in control of the pacing of my own reading, which might make the pacing of the book feel weird. I don't know. Anyway, let's welcome Andrew, another author.
Andrew.
Hello.
Have you got a camera, Andrew?
I
You don't
do.
have to.
I'm looking so rough that it's just like, you know.
Bro, it's Roboclock over here. I don't want to hear anybody looking rough.
Look at me.
Come on, man.
Look at the guy next to me. Like, I don't know if he's next to me on everyone's screen, but like, me and Dan.
I'll make you feel better, dude, if you want. You know?
I've hit the
Yeah, I'm drinking wine as well. Andrew's gone. Okay, we scared him off. Maybe he clicked the wrong button when he was trying to turn his camera on. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't know why I did this. It probably was a really stupid idea, but I started writing threads on Twitter about self-pub book design, cover design.
I did.
Oh man, you are looking rough. You should leave me.
I'm looking really rough.
Turn it off, Andrew.
Totally acceptable. You still look better than me and Dan. So
absolutely, I highly agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I started a day or two ago writing threads because I'm a designer and I've been working in design for over 25 years. And I think a lot about design. And when I look at book covers, I think about how they're designed. I look at this and I'm like, okay, what's happening with the typography? And maybe it'd be a bit better if, or whatever, you know? And I started writing threads about that on Twitter, quite lengthy threads. And a lot of people got angry at me. And a lot of intelligent people didn't get angry at me. They thanked me for it. And I've been doing mini, brutally honest, spontaneous design critiques of people's covers. And
I'm gonna interrupt you right there. Your
Go
first
ahead.
problem was posting it on Twitter.
Sure.
So wait, people were mad at you for critiquing covers?
Yeah, because a lot of people seem to think that everything is always good and you should not criticize anything ever. But what I was doing, like I was explaining some of my thinking, and then at the end I said, look, hey, if you're a self-pub author, I really like the idea of there being a lot better designed covers out there in the world. And I'm happy to give you a free, brutally honest, so don't contact me if you don't want that, but a free, brutally honest critique and give you a couple of points which I think could maybe improve a cover. And through that, Andrew and I got in touch with each other. And it turns out that Andrew is a much better designer, actually, than I am. Print, definitely in print. I mean, he showed me some of his print work, and I was like, fuck, this guy's, whew, okay. Very, very hot stuff.
I've been doing graphic design for 30 years. So I got into the industry in 91, and I've been doing a lot of computer game covers. So for me, we have to communicate very quickly. A title, it has to go on a format, it has to adhere to rules, especially for different territories. You're not allowed to show a gun going towards you and things like that. You're not allowed to show blood in Germany. So and you're in a very busy market. Computer games are getting released a lot. You just walk into any store and you've got to be competing somehow. And I think I come from a background where you start to see the same tropes. There's some really famous sort of investigative sort of from a design perspective of different film genres, and they all follow a same sort of formula. So sometimes it's about, from my point of view, is like trying to buck the trend and trying to be a little bit different. But those type of things work. If those type of movies are shot between a camera view between somebody's legs, looking through to frame it in a way for say a certain type of genre, James Bond does that type of thing, then that you'll find that that's aped time and time again.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I mean, we had a good discussion about it, and I just sort of said that you need to spend X amount. You need to, I don't think there's anything wrong in throwing something out on Twitter and sort of saying, look, I give you a free critique based upon my experience. Because being a graphic designer, you see a lot of stuff that out there in the self-publishing, especially, that you look at it and you go, well, that's really good, but your typography's off, your kerning's out, and it just makes, maybe because we're designers, it makes me wince a little bit. And go, if only that had been a little bit. I mean, I hate the typography on my book. I did my own typography, and I should have got somebody else to do it.
That was actually the thing that was like an oasis of intelligence in the sea of Twitter. Was when we started talking, and you showed me some of your graphic design work, and I was like, okay, this guy's hot shit. Like he's good at design. And you were like, but I hire people and pay them well to do my covers.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, as you should. Although you could, I mean, if you're an author, probably your time's better spent writing, right?
Yep.
But like a lot of people, I just found the whole conversation kind of hilarious. And I wrote another thread today about it because I was like, it made clear to me that I have a perspective, which you probably also have, Andrew, which most people don't have.
Yep.
And that is, you can objectively design something good or bad.
Yep.
Right? And as a designer with 25 years experience, I look at certain designed things and I just immediately go, oh, that's bad.
Yep.
And it's just like obvious. And I can give you a huge long list. I could probably talk about it for 2 hours. Why I think it's bad.
What are
but it's bad.
What are your thoughts on like intentionally bad covers? Like, because those get talked about. Like, if it's intentionally bad, people will, like, that's attention grabbing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gimmick. I don't think it's a great long-term strategy. Like, and I'm always a little suspicious if someone says that they made it intentionally bad, because I'm like, did you really, or is it just bad?
Yeah, I think there's a, from a design perspective, I think I can spot something that is intentionally bad as opposed to something that is bad.
Exactly.
And I think that is the thing from our experience, Matt and myself, is that we would look at something and go, okay, you've made some fundamental design errors there that are not intentional. You just don't realize, that when you buy fonts, that your font spacing is never, unless it's been done really well, and the person that's actually designed the fonts
and you paid a lot for the font,
has allowed for the correct amount of spacing. But if you put like the letter Y next to, say, the letter W, you'll suddenly realize when you're looking at the line that the letter W or the letter Y is suddenly drifting away.
You've got two diagonals. You have to put them really close to each other because they already have a lot of space in between, and a lot of people don't get it. So you end up with a word that looks like snow E.
Yeah,
because the Y is just not connected to the rest of the word.
Yeah, it's drifting away. So, from our perspective, that I think that is something that we can spot and go, that is a mistake, as opposed to that has been intentionally designed to look like it hasn't been designed, if you know what I mean. Because
I'd never thought, because because I've been working in design a really long time, and it's just like programmed into me. There is a difference between objective quality and subjective taste. Like, you may like something, that's subjective taste. I may look at exactly the same thing and say it's badly designed. That's objective quality, right? And they don't have anything to do with each other. Like, people like things that are badly done.
They're related. They're just not equivalent.
They're not equivalent. And for a lot of people, they're not connected.
Good stuff. That's the only reason saying it's objectively good is meaningful. If objectively good had nothing to do with whether people liked it, no one would care, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
You will find people who will love an objectively bad thing, like a movie.
Exactly.
Everyone knows examples of this in movies.
And apparently, a lot of those people are on Twitter.
I can tell you what happened. People, when you see this in writing discords and writing online, like forums, where people are looking for critique groups or critique partners. About some percentage of the people who are offering their work for critique, what they are actually looking for is for you to read their sample and tell them it's amazing. They're looking for
just to be fair, no author who asked me for a cover critique was angry with me. They were all thanked me. They were most of them said, "Wow, that's really good to know. I'm working on a new version for that book or for my next book. I'll take those things into consideration." Nobody who asked me for a critique was actually afterwards pissed off, because I was really straight. I'm like, you are going to get a brutally honest, I will tell you things you may not want to hear kind of critique, and don't ask.
Are you thinking about making a video about this, Matt? Because I think it would be an interesting video. I know you talked about the thumbnail.
Yeah, I could. I mean, what I thought, the thing I thought was most interesting was it was basically 3 or 4 threads. In the second thread, I said, okay, now I'm interested in what's going on with covers. If you want to, send me your cover and tell me what you paid for it. Right? And that's where a lot of people started getting pissed off, because I was saying, that like, if you're charging $100 for doing a cover, you're an amateur, because you fucking are. And you're very unlikely to get a really good looking cover from someone who's charging $100. And the really interesting, and tons of people sent me stuff. And then I contacted these 2 guys, and they told me also what they were paying, and Philip and Vaughn, and I got a pretty good sample. And then I wrote a thread, and I was like, if you're paying less than $1,000 for a cover, you might get a good cover. But if you're paying $1,000 or more, you're going to get at least a good cover. Like, it's going to be good. It may not be amazing, but it seemed like everybody was saying $1,000 was kind of where good starts, relatively guaranteed good starts.
To be fair, I'm just going to put it out there. This is just me baiting and being a troll. All of a sudden, you're going to have people, everyone's going to start charging $1,000 now, Matt.
They should.
But it's not
because
like,
no, it is.
It's not worth it then.
No, that's the thing. If you're charging $1,000 and you suck, you will go out of business.
True.
No one will hire you. A couple of people might do it like a few times, but you're going to get a reputation. You go out of business. There were a lot of people. One guy was really pissed off at me because I was saying that if you're charging like $100, you're basically producing amateur work. And then he got really pissed off at me because he's charging $100 and he's an artist or illustrator. He's not an artist, but he's an illustrator. And I was like, sorry, like if you're good and you're charging $100, that's like ridiculous. And then I saw some of his work and I wrote him back because he was really pissed off at me. He wrote me a couple of very angry comments. And I saw a piece of his work. Somebody said, I bought something from him and posted it. And I wrote back to him and I was like, dude, stop it. Start charging at least $500. You're good. Your art is really like, that is top-notch artwork. He was just doing illustrations, not the typography, the whole layout. But I was like, there's no way you should be charging that. And he was, and I know this from a lot of creative people, he was like, I can't put food on my table if I'm charging more. I was like, not with the clients you're working with, but get different clients, charge them more. There are people who are charging $3,000 and they're booked out. They're turning people down.
That's definitely the case. You know, when we're in the graphic design business, you can get swamped by clients that expect you to design for a lower rate. I mean, sometimes for a studio, we were charging like £250 for a job that was taking us 3-4 days. Now, if you put in the expenses, that's why the company I was with went out of business. We took
you can't make money doing that. There's no way you can make money doing that.
If at a standard freelance rate, a creative director or even a good graphic designer is charging £250 a day. So you need, if you equate that to how much time it takes, factoring in amends on an illustration. And I've worked with hundreds of comic book artists. I've worked in the comic industry for 10 years, writing comics and you know, working with art teams. And I work as a game director now, so I'm sort of making computer games and working with art teams. And you know, most artists are charging around about, for a page rate, and that's one page of comic artwork in your average comic, is around about £250. 250 pounds. So, and that usually takes them 2 days to do. And that doesn't include colors, which is done by a colorist, or inking, possibly inking, which is usually why you have an inker working on it. And they charge separately. So they, you know, a colorist will charge around about £40, £50. No, it's probably about £80 now a page. So already we're up to say 200 plus 280 plus another 45 for inks plus another 45 for lettering. So you know, you can easily see that when you buy a comic, you're probably paying, somebody is paying £400, and that's before you paid the writer, who usually gets paid about £50 a page. So it's about £450 a page in one comic. Most comics are around about 20 pages. So you can see,
and also like the value, the value to a reader of a page of a comic is almost nothing. Like you flip through them, you know, like they don't mean anything. The value of a cover is, if your cover sucks, I will not buy your book.
Yep. I have to say,
if I look at your cover and it looks amateur, I'm just not even going to think about your writing. Never going to get to it.
I'm so tempted to go pull a couple of books off my shelf, but I don't want to out these authors.
that was something I was very conscious of in my threads. I was not naming names, and I said, I will give you a critique only if you ask for it, and only if it's your book. Like, I had one guy who I checked his Twitter stream. Turned out he was a complete asshole. But I had one guy write me and say, "Can I send you some? Can I send you a guy's cover?" I was like, "No, I'm not going to critique it for you if it's not your book. Like, are you just trying to shame the guy? Piss off." No, like, authors, if they're really interested in it and they want to know, then I'm happy to, you know, say something. But yeah,
because your whole purpose is to help the author. You're trying to help the
Yeah,
author.
that is the main thing. I mean, and also, I mean, I'm happy to help the artists as well, but usually the artist isn't the brain behind it. You know, like the author is telling them, I want this, I want that, and do it this way, and that kind of thing. Anyway.
So someone had a question earlier, I think it was Heidi, about best covers. And
yeah, I saw that. I did want to answer that. Tell us their favorite covers.
Evie fucking beat me to it.
I got the bit. How many standard
cover.
edition books is too many? Because I got this in the Vanished Birds yesterday in paperback. Because
for those of you who are new to this particular corner of BookTube, Evie has sent that book to basically everyone.
It's one of the hardcovers me out of stock.
She sent, yeah, exactly. She basically wrecked the stock of the hardcover of The Spear Cuts Through Water. She sent it to me for Christmas. She sent it to Dan for Christmas, I'm pretty sure.
She didn't wreck the stock of the author, for Christmas.
She sent it to me, and I'm so sorry I haven't read it yet, but I will.
You're a loser, Joanna. It's so good. It's so good.
Hey, I read the book you gave me. I'm getting there. I'm trying to get there.
Wait, she read The Vanished Birds, so she's halfway there. It's good.
And she read the book I sent her before she read the book you sent her, so she's got her priorities straight. That's
I read The Vanished Birds first, though. So
I'm doing a read along of the Spear Cuts Through Water on my channel in Discord. January 1st is when we're starting. If you're interested, Joanna, kick the year off right.
Personally, tag me in this. I'm offended.
I think I did. It was on my Discord. I hit everyone, and I have my own thing. I don't want to be promoting my Discord on his channel, but you know, I have a
promote your Discord. Go for it.
I have a section for Spear Cuts Through Water where we're all going to start reading January 1st. Come by my Discord, join. It's going to be fun. I'm going to reread it for, I think, the third time now.
Third time?
Yeah, so I've done it all in audio. I'm sorry.
I may join in January as well.
Is the audiobook good?
It's fucking fabulous.
So I was telling Dan that I bought the audiobook because I caved. Because again, how many editions and versions?
You have to own all the editions.
Yeah, too many. And I was like, oh, I'll just listen to maybe 5 minutes of it, and just to see how it is. An hour later, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta do stuff around the house. So it's really, really.
There is a part in the beginning in the transition that just it starts off like Princess Bride, the movie, where it's a grandfather, a grandmother telling a child a story, something from their past. It's a family story. It's
while the child rolls cigarettes for the grandmother.
Immediately somebody like me is like, so I was raised by my grandmother, so automatically, boom, I'm hooked, right? And my grandmother was a savage, just like Lulla in the book, so automatically I'm in, And Lulla's having her little boy roll him the cigarette as she tells him the story, gives him the cigarette. She takes this puff and she blows it in the kid's face, and he transforms into what they call, after the smoke clears, he finds
goes into another world, basically,
in the inverted theater, and it is absolutely fantastic. And
I cannot wait to read this.
I just worked all last night on my intro for my dedicated review. I have all the funny intro stuff I'm going to do, and now I got to talk about the book, which I'm not going to write nothing down because I'm just going to fucking gush about it.
I did a review months ago for it, and I think my review was basically just, I don't remember really, but I think my review was basically, oh my God, guys, this is so good. You have to read it over and over again. It's really good.
It is.
Yeah. So I would recommend, Joanna, if you're going to do audiobook, make sure you do immersion reading.
I would immersion. I would not just try to audiobook.
Yeah, because there's a lot of visual cues with the almost literal weaving of perspectives throughout the book. So
there's a lot of italics and breaks between paragraphs that sort of show you, okay, now we're switching something, and it's the most nested narrative I've ever read.
Yeah.
They say Elric. Well, I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Elric.
No, they say Elric is heavy metal fantasy.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is freaking psychedelic fantasy with purple haze prose. It is absolutely, it's amazing in my opinion.
Yeah. It's I counted at one point that we were 6 levels deep.
But you don't have to count. Just
no, you don't have to count. I was just like, wow, this is very nested, and it's easy to follow. I expected it to lose me at some point, where I was like, okay, now we're going down another level. Well, like what? But
so it's not like Lord of Light.
It's not like Lord of Light. No.
Happening.
If Dan read Lord of Light, he might revise his psychedelic book opinion.
It is pretty psychedelic.
Lord of Light is pretty damn. I mean, it was written in 1967 by a guy that I'm pretty sure was experimenting with multiple things. And
I gotta read that then.
It's good.
So I actually wrote in my journal, because I have a reading journal now, and I actually wrote in my journal when I was reading it. I said, I can't believe I'm having an experience like this in a book without having to do drugs, like something like that.
That's what I'm looking for right now. Yes.
It was very
Give me the
psychedelic.
That's awesome. I just love that, that imagination and generating those visuals in your head of the crazy
It's psychedelic
shit
with the Hindu pantheon, like the Buddhist Hindu.
And Buddhist philosophy. Yeah.
Buddhist
It's
philosophy.
I don't anymore, but I did do a lot of drugs at one point, and a lot of psychedelics like mushies and speed and acid were my thing. And I started reading Lord of Light, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I know where this guy's coming from. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah. We loved
definitely.
it.
Yeah.
Poor Philip. I think
Philip was not. Yeah, we just now, like half an hour before this started, Joanna and I did a chat with Philip on her channel about Lord of Light, and he was lukewarm on it.
Yeah, he's like, I liked it.
Yeah.
Which for Philip, like, I don't know.
I don't know this for a fact, but I'm kind of assuming that Philip has never done acid. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who has. So
I don't know, those intellectual Buddhist types. I think there's an if there. I'm
He was in Nepal at a certain time in life. Just kidding.
But it was also it wasn't that long ago that he was in Nepal, and it wasn't the 60s. So,
Well, I was going to ask you, Matt. I know you're reading Fellowship of the Ring. I
am.
Joanna, you just finished Lord of Light, or are you working on anything else?
Right now, I am reading Wars of Light and Shadow Book 4, which is very long, which is why I've been all about the short books lately, because I'm in the middle of an 11-book series, and the books are.
I'll be right back.
It's not only that they're long, but Jenny Wirtz's writing style takes time, and she did that intentionally. She always says that she wrote in such a way that she wanted the reader to take their time, and it is taking me a long time, especially with that book. So I'm mostly working on that, chipping away at that, and then meanwhile I'm listening to Pride and Prejudice very slowly and loving every second of that book. I even bought a physical copy because I'm loving the audiobook so much.
So I was actually randomly thinking about Pride and Prejudice last night, because as one does.
As you do.
Well, touche. Pride and Prejudice is basically one giant miscommunication trope.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
No, and everybody hates miscommunication tropes, but everyone loves Pride and Prejudice.
I don't believe people who say that, and I don't believe people who say they don't like love triangles either.
Yeah,
because Baker Prince and Nothing trilogy has a love triangle. People don't talk about that.
And I hated it.
I mean, there can be exceptions.
I did, but it is my favorite series. It is. I don't know. I just hated the love triangle in that.
Just had to get down into the conversation.
I think whatever anyone says when they hate a trope, I hate this trope which is done so often badly. And of course you hate the badly done, but I think a good author could make any trope exciting, interesting, funny, whatever.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Yeah.
Joe, what are you reading?
I asked you first, Dan.
The Witcher. Okay.
So
which
I I've been stuck in a rut where I read all my friends' books, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily what I want to be reading. And then Joe Carroll, thank God, invited me to do a series of we're reading all through a whole Witcher, which I've never read. I read like the first one, like when it first came out in English. And
Right.
then I'm like, well, Joe's like, well, on Sunday we're going to be talking about it on YouTube for an hour and a half. So I'm like, well, I should read the book. So, and I didn't play the video game. I'm not really a gamer. So I've been working my way through, and this was good.
Game is better.
Is that one of the novels, or is that the collection of short stories?
No, this is one of the novels. So this is like the third novel or the second novel. I forget.
You didn't like the novels.
I
thought
read
the short stories were
all
great.
of them. I've
read all of it
the
as
Witcher
well.
books. And
but
I liked him
I like the
okay,
novels.
but
Yeah.
my husband was playing the game at the same time as I was reading that series, and I think he had more fun playing the game, honestly.
The game is one of the best games I've ever played.
Don't love it. I'd probably drop it. I just feel like a lot of it is like it's hitting these cool things that were cool because there weren't a lot of other choices in fantasy. And I'm old enough to remember that, where I would read anything. I remember loving Terry Goodkin. And I love Terry Goodkin because there wasn't a lot else to read. Like guys with swords, like fighting.
That's the only reason to love Terry Goodkin.
I mean, like it was like a big chunky book where you could get immersed in guys cutting things down and like magic and like high magic, right? And that there wasn't a lot of that easily available, and now there is. So you can afford to be choosy and just read the good stuff.
You know who's pissed? You know who's totally pissed about The Witcher? Michael Moorcock.
That's what I was going to say. Yes. I mean, it's definitely a ripoff of Elric. 100%.
It's so Elric. Oh my God.
I mean, to
Elric,
be fair,
only Elric was
not,
cooler.
yes.
But Moorcock is brilliant because what he did is he had these ideas that he put into his books and he wanted to reuse them because he didn't want to come up with a new set of ideas. So he's like, I know, I'll make these all iterations of the Eternal Champion so I can reuse all my story ideas and pretend it's deliberate. And I'm like, oh my God, that is genius. That is the most genius thing any author has ever done, ever.
And
I rehash my own stories, and it seemed like they did it on purpose. And it
worked on Teenage Me. I read when I was a teenager. I read all of Elric. I read all of Hawkmoon. I read all of Corum.
I read Jerry Cornelius like 3 times.
Jerry Cornelius. I read all of the Jerry Cornelius. I read like all of the Eternal Champion bullshit.
We had the same like youth, literally.
Yeah. I'm on book 6. I did read the first 3 Elric stories when I was or a bind up of the Elric saga when I was a teenager. But thanks to Evie, I'm rereading them.
Grew up in an era where you go to the bookstore and whatever they have on the shelves is what they have on the shelves, and those are your choices.
Exactly. You don't like. I am lucky now. I want to do a video about this actually. I am lucky now to live in Berlin because Berlin has the Otherland bookstore, and the Otherland bookstore, I mean, it's in Germany, so normally I avoid bookstores in Germany. I can read German, I just don't like to read German, so I just don't look at books. But an American friend of mine was like, we have to go to Otherland. Otherland is 2 rooms. They only sell science fiction, fantasy, and a little horror. And the front room is German and the back room is English. And they have everything. It's amazing. I mean, the room is completely packed. It couldn't fit another book in it. But,
when can I visit?
Come to Berlin anytime. You can stay at my place. We'll go to Otherland. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good bookstore.
Open invite to anyone watching the stream.
No.
Knowing Matt,
don't get any ideas. Well, I mean, not all at once. Not all at once. My flat's not that big, and I only have one sofa that someone could sleep on.
Has the cat peed on it lately?
Yeah, right.
Actually, that's going really well right now. Although I have it's so weird. I have a new cat. For anyone that hasn't heard, I have a new cat. 3 weeks or so I've had her, and she decided that she had to mix her scent with mine, so she was peeing on the sofa at least once a day, exactly where I sit, and in the middle of my bed. So I set up a few days ago, I set up a mirror. Like my flat is like my office is where I'm sitting, and then in front of me on the other side of that wall is the living room where the sofa is. The bed's easy. I just close the door to the bedroom. She can't get in there. But for the sofa, I was always like, I can't see it. I don't know what's going on. And I realized I have a really big mirror sitting around that I haven't hung up yet. And I put this mirror on the other table in my office so I could just go, yeah, she's not on the sofa. That problem actually seems to be solved. The last 3 days, she has slept in the bed with me, not peed on the bed or me. She peed on me twice. I'm sure she was trying to pee on the bed. I don't think it was personal, but yeah, I was in the bed. And she hasn't peed on the sofa. So I think I've solved that problem. I hope I've solved that problem. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to fucking yeet her out the window. I'm so sick of it. Oh my god!
Johanna, what a forbidden
Well, have you
plan.
taken her to the vet to see if like?
Yeah, we went to the vet, and the vet was really sweet. The vet looked at her, checked everything, and she said, "Unfortunately, I think she's totally healthy." I was hoping that there was a problem where we could just like start giving her some pills and solved. And the vet was like, the only thing wrong with her is she's too thin. She's a little underweight, so I'm overfeeding her a little bit for a while. But yeah, she's off sleeping somewhere. We probably won't see Fitz on the stream today.
The one moment of seeing her tail was all we'll get.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Hey guys, it's sports ball day over here in America.
oh my god.
Okay, before you leave, what are you reading?
Yes. So I am reading The Ballad of the Perilous Graves.
Oh, nice.
I have never even heard of it.
Angela from Literature Science Alliance loves that book.
It is
Right,
amazing.
right?
Robert from Punk Rock Cereal Bowl loves that. It's takes place after Katrina in New Orleans with all the jazz and the blues and the like a Creole type magic or there's graves, people, ghosts coming from the grave, ghosts of the blues and jazz past from New Orleans, and it's quite cool. It actually had, it's pretty adult. It actually has some swearing in it, but I thought it should have been for kids until I got to a certain point, and I was like, oh, I don't know if every kid should read this, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's very urban, and they use the lingo of the urban culture in New Orleans, and I love it.
From how it's been explained to me, it's like The City We Became, but for New Orleans instead of New York City. It's that equivalent type of thing. But
okay.
Yeah,
anyway,
so a bunch of little kids
and
out to save New Orleans from what's coming, and it takes place after Katrina, and it definitely has some themes, and it's a great book.
who are the Eagles playing and who are the Steelers playing?
The Steelers are on now. If you have heard, my wife is being very nice, being very quiet for you guys, but I think the Steelers are up. And it wasn't it might be a close game, but they are playing Cincinnati Bengals, and they were winning last time I checked, and my Eagles are playing the Bills today in about 20 to 30 minutes.
When you say your Eagles, is there another Eagles that is not yours?
No, there is only one Eagles, and they are all mine. They're like right here in the heart.
I didn't realize that's how Sports Bowl works.
Yes. Sports Bowl, it's stuck deep down in there. I wish I could get it out sometimes, but no success.
I'm gonna head out too. Just wanted to stay in for a little while. Actually, I planned to stay for just like 15 minutes and got carried away, but this was fun conversation. So.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, Dan.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I don't get Sports Bowl. I'm so unsports. As a person, I know it makes me insignificant as a male member of the species, but I don't get it.
My husband is all about all of the New England sports, and the only sport that I like watching baseball like at the game, like physically at the game, but like watching it on TV is so boring. And hockey is the only sport that I like, and that's solely because I want to see them fight. So.
Yeah. Watching hockey live, I had a friend in strangely enough in Australia when I was growing up, and he was a ice hockey goalie. So I used to go watch hockey live and then watch the big league games with him. And watching hockey live is so much fun because like they're fighting, slamming against the wall right in front of you. And it's exciting. But yeah, in-person sports depends on the sport. I grew up in Australia, so cricket. Like we used to go watch cricket games. Cricket games, a normal cricket game goes for days. And what you do is what's that?
It could still be a draw.
Yeah, and it could still be a draw. Like nobody, in the end, nobody won. But what you do when you go to the cricket is, my friends and I used to go. You get an esky, like a big cooler. You fill it up with ice and beer and some snacks, and you get the cheap seats, which is the lawn or the hill. There's like a grassy part, and you ignore the game. You just hang out and drink beer and bullshit with your friends. And every now and then you're like, how's the game going? Yeah, nothing's happened yet. Because like if you're playing for days, everybody plays really cautiously. So literally for half an hour, nothing can happen.
It's usually until the 5th day. That's when it's interesting. Potentially.
Yeah, exactly. They're 6-day matches. But then they've got one day matches. I think they were invented to try and make cricket interesting. And then they play a little more aggressively, and things happen a little bit quicker.
No, the 2020 is really good. If you're into your sports, 2020's, that's you got to hit everything out the ground basically.
Yeah.
And I've been to the Oval to watch a bit of 2020 Cup final type thing, and that was really good. And I've last year I went to watch the Jags play the Broncos at Wembley, which was also, awesome. I like my sports, so for me Sunday is like sports day because I'm usually doing the ironing and just wall-to-wall sports continuously because I'm really a slow ironer. It takes me ages. So like 4 or 5 hours I'm sitting there ironing all the kids' school clothes and everything. But
I went to a Catholic boys' school, and when I started going to Catholic boys' school, I had to wear a uniform, like with a button-up shirt and proper pants and all of that sort of stuff. And my mother, when I started going, my mother was like, "Okay, it's time for you to learn how to iron." She was like, "I'm not ironing your uniforms endlessly. You are going to learn how to iron." So I've been good at ironing since I was 10, which is a good skill to have. It's nice to be able to, if you need to. Although now I live in Berlin, which like a friend of mine who's been in Berlin longer than I have, I was saying to him, it's been a while. Maybe I think I might go look for like a really nicely made dress shirt. And he was like, "Why? You live in Berlin." I was like, "Well, every now and then you need to dress up." And he's like, "Not in Berlin." Like literally nobody does that unless you're like super corporate or something. You might have nicer clothes, but like typical button-up suit kind of clothes, nobody ever. I've not had a social situation where I needed anything like that since I moved here. Where did I live in the US and in Australia? I was born in Washington, D.C., or just outside of Washington, D.C. Strangely, my mother worked for the CIA, and she got posted undercover to the Australian embassy the American embassy in Australia, which was in Canberra, which, despite most people's opinion, is actually the capital of Australia. It's not Sydney. So yeah, we lived in Canberra.
Now you're going to tell me New York's not the capital of New York State. That's crazy talk.
But I mean, at least New York's the capital of America. I mean, that much is clear. Yeah, and I lived there, and then I moved back to America. I went to university in Richmond, Virginia, which is just like 2 hours south of Washington, D.C. I spent a lot of time in New York. Spent a lot of time in Florida. I have family in Florida. My dad was from Florida. He's dead now, but my stepmother still lives there, and I go visit her. So yeah. And then when I moved back to Australia again, I moved to Sydney. So Sydney is what I think of as my actual spiritual home in Australia. It is the most beautiful city I have ever been to anywhere in the world, and I have traveled a lot. Sydney is fucking amazing. It's so gorgeous. And around this time of year, I was out with a friend last night, and we're walking to the pub. This Mac OS thing. If you do that, you get fireworks. If you do that,
you get balloons.
Yeah,
Wait,
if you do
what?
both, you get confetti. If you do one, you get balloons.
I have a
No,
map, and this is not happening.
No, but you have to update to the latest OS,
Uh,
and it's an option. You can turn it off. It might be turned off, but yeah. We were going to the pub last night, and it was -2 degrees outside, and we got to the pub, and he's from Turkey, so also like much nicer weather. So my Turkish friend and I are sitting there, and he's like, "Why don't you live in Sydney and I live in Istanbul? Why did we do this?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Oki is asking me, why did I end up in Germany? Originally, because of a woman.
As most relocation things are, because of a woman or a man.
Exactly. I lived with her for a while. I married her, divorced her, and by then I had a life in Germany, and I could speak German, and I knew a lot of people, and I had a good work network in Germany and all of that. So,
and now you have a cat in Germany.
And now I have a cat in Germany and a really nice flat, which is hard to find in Berlin. I was almost homeless. Ooh. So, yeah.
And you got currywurst as well, which I absolutely love in Berlin.
And we have currywurst. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Currywurst.
Yeah, currywurst is basically a German Wurst, so like a German sausage, cut up into pieces, and then smothered with this ketchup that has curry in it.
I love it.
Yeah, which is a little bit spicy and tastes kind of curry-like, but it's good. It's the kind of thing you eat when you're drunk at 3 a.m.
Exactly, and so consequently, I immediately went for it. I gravitated it. It became my food. I've been to Berlin quite a few times. I've got relatives over there. In fact, I'm quarter German, so not that I speak any. So I enjoy Berlin. Berlin's lovely.
It's a gorgeous city. It's not quite as nice as Sydney. There we go. Fitz.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. Hey, Fitz. Fitz doesn't like being picked up like most cats.
I am going to pee on the couch now.
No, she doesn't do it out of spite. I think she was just doing it out of, I don't know what's going on here yet. And now she's walking on my keyboard. She's got such a floofy tail. Speak some German. Kann ich machen, aber was soll ich sagen? Hast du Ideen, was ich sagen soll, okay? Kannst mir sagen und dann mache ich das. Sage ich es auf Deutsch. Kein Problem.
I thought I knew a little German until I started getting these emails from DHL about your deliveries. And I was like, I don't know if they say the package is on the way or are your packages lost. F you. I had no idea.
We burned your package.
We burned it. Just, good luck. I had no. I was like, okay, I don't know. Clearly, I took a year of it in college.
Okay.
Clearly, I saw Matt's comment.
Heard the beer in Germany is killer. Germany certainly has more beer than anywhere I've been, like more different beers than anywhere I've been. Like every town you go to has a particular beer, which is different than somewhere else. And they've been brewing it since the 12th century or something, And there's a thing, there used to be a thing, it doesn't really exist anymore, but there used to be a thing in Germany called the Reinheitsgebot, which is basically the purity law. And it doesn't have anything to do with the Nazis. No, it doesn't have anything to do with the Nazis. It has to do with what you are allowed to put in beer, how beer must be brewed, at least at a minimum, to guarantee that it has good quality and good taste and all of that. And it defines like how pure the water has to be and whatever. And it used to be law. You weren't allowed to brew beer that didn't conform, because Germans love conformity and laws. And it made for some really good beer. And a lot of companies, you don't have to anymore, but a lot of companies do now still brew following the Reinheitsgebot. Hello, Jerome.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hugo nominee in our midst.
Exactly. Hugo nominee, Jerome Admiral.
Does this work? No. Yeah, when you guys stopped talking about sports and started talking about currywurst, I knew my time had come.
All right. Perfect timing. Yeah. Jerome is a viewer. So we've got a really mixed bag tonight. We've got 2 authors, 2 booktubers, and one of the viewers from my channel who is a Hugo nominee book reviewer on his blog.
Yeah, I just published a blog post about the Ernest P. Worrell movies. So it's his Hugo-nominated blog now.
I won't read
featuring those movies.
For some reason, Jerome recently subjected himself to everyone of the Ernest P. Worrell movies.
And I have no idea what that is.
Ernest.
You've never seen Ernest Saves Christmas?
Oh, God, yeah. Ernest. I'm still traumatized by Ernest Scared Stupid.
That's the best one of the lot.
Oh my
God.
God.
All the 11 movies, I think.
And Jerome just recently watched all 11.
Nice.
And is still alive to tell the tale.
I just think, why would you do that?
I don't remember the last 4.
Maybe drinking at least?
I would be trying to forget them.
Let's switch topics.
Jim
Daniel
Farley was in the remake of Beverly Hillbillies. Don't at me.
Okay.
He played Ernest.
Oh, right, yeah. Belgium has crazy beers as well. They've never heard of the never had the Reinheitsgebot. No, but Belgium has some really good beers. I spent a lot of time in Belgium. I used to have a client in Belgium, so I used to have to go there every 2 weeks. And in contrast to most client relationships, the first night I was in Belgium, my client said, one of my colleagues is having their birthday today, and took us to a pub, and it was literally a dancing on the tables party with clients. I was like, am I allowed to do this? And my project manager from the German company I worked for was there, and he kept going, but I ended up dancing on the tables with them and all of that, because why would you not? You know? Rogue says he thought that there were like 3 of them. I didn't know there were 11 either.
Sweet summer child.
I think you got to name them all now.
Exactly. Jerome, name all the Ernst movies.
Send us to your blog post.
From memory? I don't think I can.
From memory.
From memory.
Of course.
I'll have to.
You're Googling, I can tell.
Google.
You mean you haven't memorized all of the dialogue of all of them?
I know the first one does not have Ernest in a title. It's a really weird one. It's called
Oh my God.
Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam.
And that's an Ernest movie.
Yes, not many people know this.
That is knowledge I never missed not having.
But the first real Ernest movie is Ernest Goes to Camp. Then it's Ernest Saves Christmas. Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Gets Stupid. Ernest Rides Again, which is the history for movie. Ernest Goes to School. Slam Dunk Ernest. Ernest Goes to Africa, and Ernest in the Army.
Miggins just joined us. How are you, Matt? How are things going? Haven't seen you in a while.
I must depart.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
thanks for joining, Andrew.
No problem. I'll hopefully catch you next time.
Yeah.
Before you leave, what have you been reading, Andrew?
You know what? You're going to tell me off. I haven't been reading anything. You know why? I'm writing. I'm writing the next book.
Well,
which is the more important thing. Pimp your book briefly before you go.
Well, my book is called and it's going to kill me because I'm going to drag everything down. It's a very thick book.
Oh my god. It's
called
thin
The Hero.
compared to Malazan, so
Yeah, it's called
I'm
The
not
Hero
scared.
Interviews. It's a fantasy, let's say a tongue-in-cheek look at the world of D&D with 1,700 footnotes. That was a lot of footnotes. Seriously, I just went overboard. I thought Terry Pratchett likes his footnotes. And then I tried to format them, and then I realized that this was going to kill me. So I'm actually writing a follow-up. It's actually all done as transcript interviews. So there's 45 transcript interviews, question and answer all the way through. But there's arcs all the way through it, mini arcs and a big arc. And so I'm starting work on something called The Hero Diaries, which is basically written in a sort of Adrian Mole style Dear Diary. So I'm starting to do that for a D&D adventure, like what happened today and what happened yesterday and everything.
Okay. But, interesting structure.
Epistolary next.
Have you read Augustus by John Williams?
I haven't. I've read World War Z, which was done in that sort of
epistolary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Augustus. I haven't read it yet either, but Tori sent it to me not too long ago.
It is my favorite John Williams book out of all of them.
Okay, better than Stoner.
Yep.
Okay, we'll see about that. Because I'm pretty impressed with Stoner. Like, like nobody could ever sell me on that book. It's basically a professor of medievalism living his life.
Yep.
That's basically the story. And it's so good. It's so good. So well written. Such interesting stuff going on. And it's like 1,000 times. It's like the opposite of how boring it sounds. It's really good. But Augustus, I've also heard, is extremely good. Same author, but totally different subject and written in an epistolary structure and everything. Yeah, totally different.
Sounds good. I'll check it out. I do like books that are a little bit different, which is why I wrote a book that was solely dialogue.
Allow Evie to show us the book again.
You want a book that's different?
The Spear That Cuts Through Water is pretty damn different. It's the differentest book I've read in a long time.
By the way, I was very excited to see that the map is still in the book.
But not in color. In the hardcover, it's this gorgeous color, insane illustration.
But at least it's there.
It's at least there. Yeah, it's not really a map at all. It's a weird, like trippy illustration of the world, but it's really awesome.
It's a propaganda map.
Yeah. Heidi is asking, and I was also thinking, Joe, are you still there? Because your video is frozen.
Take care, people.
Okay.
Hi, Andrew.
Good to see you, Andrew.
Take care.
Can you hear me?
Joe?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, but your video is not moving at all. I don't know
my
why.
video is moving to me.
Okay. It's definitely not for us. And the chat is also saying it's not. That's okay. It's a good looking still frame. It's fine. You look
It's
great.
not an awkward,
No.
frame.
I'm going to start picking my nose now, and then the video will magically unfreeze.
Yes, exactly. I'll click the right button and it'll start moving again. Just let me know. Yeah. Oki says you look serious.
I can log out and log back in. I'll do that.
Or just turn your camera off and back. Yeah, or that. Yeah, he's gone.
So, Jerome, what are you reading?
What are you reading, Jerome?
When you haven't been watching Ernest movies.
Exactly.
I am reading The Demon Princess by Jack Vance.
Jack Vance.
Yes.
There he is. Joe's back and moving. Jack Vance. I am only aware of The Dying Earth by him. I'm not really. Know his other
Matt,
stuff.
you should definitely read his Lioness series.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Lioness, probably.
Lioness.
Yeah. Or Leoness.
That's a magical series.
Okay.
I went like 30 years without realizing that Vecna was just the letters in Vance rearranged. Someone pointed that out in a video I saw like a week ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's true."
There are a lot of Easter eggs in D&D.
I can't believe
there are a lot of Easter eggs in
I can't
D&D.
believe it.
And also, have you ever read Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser Fritz Leiber? The whole world that it takes place in? Nay-one?
Yeah.
It's no-when. It's just no-when turned around. It's just spelled backwards. There's a lot of really little things like that. Rogue says he didn't like Stoner. I think I'll just go kick him then. Okay.
I will say that speaking of Fritz Leiber, once I finish The White Wolf's Son, which will be my next read after I finish Evil for Evil, I'm gonna start on Fritz Leiber Mouser series.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, I always find it kind of sad because if you read old things, there we go. There's Liam. Speaking of old authors, he's like the expert. If you read old things, and I mean, this is one of the reasons I absolutely love Liam, because Liam is probably less than half my age. I'm not sure how old Liam is, but
he's got a baby face, so
yeah, maybe he's only half my age, not less than half my age, but he's somewhere around half my age. And I didn't read Fritz Leiber when his books came out because I don't think I was born, or I certainly wasn't old enough to read fantasy, but I read him a long time ago, like in the early 80s. And back then it felt like a new experience. You know, I had read Lord of the Rings and I'd read maybe a couple other things, and I read Leiber and Moorcock and Zelazny and all of these things, and they felt really exciting and new. And they have been the inspiration for everybody since then. So everything you read now was inspired, not everything, but a lot of it was inspired by all of these guys. So now when you go back and read them, they feel cliche. If you're reading it for the first time, like if I was to give a 25-year-old today Zelazny or Leiber or Moorcock, they would be like, oh, this is like The Witcher. Like, no, it's not. The Witcher's like it.
It's like you ever read War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
That feels incredibly derivative.
Yeah.
It feels right, but of course it's not. It's like the first time aliens invaded Earth with heat rays, right? It was amazingly imaginative, but you read it and you're like, oh God, again.
Oh yeah, this again.
Like this is like they just took the crappy parts of Star Wars and put it in a book. But like, no, it's like this is where those parts came from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Miggins says he struggled to get into the realm of the Eldlings. I've got to kick him and Rogue.
I was going to say, kick him out.
Oh my God.
Too slow. Too slow. Get to some action already, Realm of the Eldling. Oh look, Fitz is depressed. Oh look, the king is sad and tired.
Just a bit too
I
warm.
just described the whole series.
Okay. Rogue said he didn't think he would like it because it sounded boring, but he loved it. Yeah. Okay. So you're allowed to stay, Rogue. That's all right. Liam's read the first of the Demon Princess. Princes.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. It's like Kill Bill in space.
Kill Bill in space is a good pitch. Yeah.
There are 5 pirate captains, 5 novels, and 1 vigilante who is going to take revenge on all of them.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's interesting.
One for each novel. Yeah.
I keep feeling like I want to do a video sometime soon about Appendix N. Joe may know what Appendix N is. I wouldn't expect anyone else to know what Appendix N is. So in the original D&D, way back, first edition, it wasn't called first edition back then. It was just called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, which had a very iconic image on the front of like a giant Efreet holding people. In there was Appendix N. At the back, there were a bunch of appendixes, and they were lettered. So there was Appendix A to, I think N might have been the last one. And Appendix N was the recommended reading.
Oh.
And it's like for old, decrepit, graying D&D players like myself, it's legendary. It's like Appendix N. I've always thought I would like to one day have read everything in Appendix N. The new D&D 5th edition has Appendix E, which is the same thing, just with a lot of updated recommendations, but also some of the old ones. And Fritz Leiber is in there, and Jack Vance is in there, and the old one in the Appendix N, and a lot of these old school Paul Anderson, and a lot of the really old school fantasy stuff is in there. So I may do a video about it.
Yeah, man,
at some
look at
point.
this.
That's exactly what I have. Yep, exactly. I have those. I have the two volumes, the Fantasy Masterworks. Tori and I have been talking about reading it together, but our reading plans have diverged too strongly that I don't know if it's going to happen anytime.
I have a really strange version of the first of these two. Like this is the second collection, right?
Yeah.
And I have like an alternate version of the first one.
Oh, okay.
But it's
it's just called Lenkmar.
Yeah, but it's the first 4 novels collected.
Okay.
Like it's exactly
I've never
the
seen
same,
that before.
from the same publisher as well.
Hello, Tori.
Tori, we've been talking about you the whole time. So
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about you for hours. I did it again. I just realized last week before the pub, I said, I feel like reading. Let's do Sprintz. This time before the pub, I also wrote in my channel on the Discord, hey, I feel like reading. Let's do Sprintz. And we totally didn't do Sprintz. I think I just got excited because Joe was here for the first time and Andrew was here for the first time. And yeah. We already went through what did you say what you're reading, Evie?
Evil for Evil by KJ Parker.
Evil for Evil.
It's the second book in the Engineer trilogy.
Okay. I've never read any KJ Parker. I know that Alan would probably never.
The Folding Knife would be, he would always
me.
recommend The Folding Knife.
Yeah.
But I started with his short fiction, and I loved it. So
I'm reading his short fiction right now. His new collection.
Under My Skin?
Under My Skin, yeah.
Nice.
It's amazing.
All right.
I love it.
No one talks about the Scavenger trilogy anymore.
That's going to be my next one.
I really like those, and like no one talks about them. I was like, KJ Parker, you're going to talk Scavenger now? It's just the coolest setup.
Well, this is my first series that I've read by him. So I've read his short fiction, all 3 collections. And then I've read The Folding Knife and The Hammer. I still need to read The Company and Sharps. So
because she's here now, can we just take a moment to embarrass Tori? Tori has a brand new book coming out on Tuesday. And I've read it, and it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. And promote myself a little bit. I've done a review of it already. If you want to go look, it's called The Bloodstones. And I did an interview with Tori. When was that? Yesterday? Friday. Yeah, 2 days ago. Did an interview with her, which was really fun. Had a really good time doing that. And the book's cool. The book's really cool. Yeah. Definitely read it. And she has a story in The Advent of Winter, which is a collection of short stories, which is on Kickstarter. I don't remember if the Kickstarter is finished already or not. I've already backed it, but it's an advent calendar of stories. So all through December, you get sent a story every day, I think. And there's a hardback, which eventually gets sent to you. Yes, the Kickstarter is finished. People are telling me. Yeah. So you can't back it anymore. Sorry. But it looks like it's going to be a really nice collection. It's all self-pub authors. Tori's in there. I don't know. Tell me, Tori, who else is in there? I basically got up.
Dominic Books,
Tori
I think, is in there as well.
Dominic, I don't know if he wrote something, but I know that he organized it.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter is his, but I don't think he's got a story in it. But Yeah, the Gunmetal Gods Kickstarter, that looks really hot. I haven't even read it, and just looking at the thing they're going to produce, I was like, ooh, I want that. And then I went through the process of backing it, and I was like, how would you like to pay more than half the price of the book in postage? I was like, yeah, not so much. So, yeah.
All right. Well,
Dom
I need to
did write a
help
story.
my husband bathe the dog. So
Okay.
I'm going to drop.
Enjoy that.
Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Yeah, Evie.
All right. Nice to meet you, Joe. Nice to see you again, Jerome.
Evie.
Okay, there we go. So we've got a lot of the regular names in Soft Pub: Zach Argyle, Andrew Meredith, Tiago, the guys that pop up everywhere. Ryan Cahill.
It's funny because it's a corner of Cell Pub, and I don't know how to describe it because I know those guys, and that's not like the biggest. Well, Ryan Cahill is a big seller, but these guys aren't the big sellers. The big sellers are the people writing like a book a month in sci-fi or a book a month, and they're not addressed by the BookTube community. They don't enter Spiffbo. They've never heard of Spiffbo. I've met some of these guys like at Dragon Con, and they're selling like way more books, but they're not. So I don't know what to call this. The corner that enters Spiffbo that is talked about on BookTube that or like Patrick Leo has we'll talk about your books. There's it's a category, but I don't know I don't know what it is. But I know when I see it, but I can't describe it.
Certainly in my corner of BookTube, these guys pop up all the time, and I've heard of the guys you're talking about who are writing these endless series that have 30 books and that kind of thing, and that doesn't sound like a formula for books I want to read.
No, I'm not. I don't think you would want to, but that's a much bigger actual like part of the market.
Oh yeah,
and BookTube just doesn't talk about it at all.
Yeah,
and those guys are making a lot. They're selling a lot more books.
Yeah,
if you find an audience, find 10,000 people like your books. You write a book a month, and sooner or later you have 100,000 sales a year. You're making a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's super interesting. I tried to write like that. I couldn't do it. I don't have the skill. So,
Jesus, Miggins.
Jesus,
you paid $500 to get it. How does that work? I hope you're joking.
Yeah, you could swim over and get it for cheaper than that.
I mean, the Gunmetal Gods thing, I think the full-on hardback and whatever was, I don't know, 60 or 80 or something, and it was going to cost 40 to get it to Germany.
But where's he sending them from? He's not in the US, is he? Or
he's in the UK, or I don't know where he is right now, but I know he is British.
Shipping from the US to Europe is extremely expensive, while vice versa.
It's not that bad. I mean, you one book costs you $20-$30, but 500.
It's really bad.
How's that work, Miggins?
You might as well fly there, indeed. Yeah.
I was going to say, for $500, you could hire a courier and get him to bring it over.
For 3 books to the UK in a box, and it was $100 in shipping.
LitRPG, I am still a little mystified by this whole idea of LitRPGs. I'm like
there's like characters leveling up and stuff like that.
Yeah, but is it the same thing as what everyone's calling progression fantasy?
No, LitRPG, you're in a video game. So the characters are trapped in a video game, or the world has acquired game-like characteristics. Okay. So they literally level up. The text will literally say, "You have gained 1 level in swordsmanship. You have gained 3 hit points," as opposed to a fantasy that we're used to, the old style, where the character gets better at fighting, but they don't actually have game characteristics. LitRPG will often have stat blocks in the text, like charts of how their stats have increased over time. And it's like playing a video game in text. But think about it.
Why would I want to read that?
You don't, but if your life is gaming, if you're really into gaming, you're reading a story where a person's ability to grind and gain levels and game actually lets them save the real world. That's a huge, wish fulfillment fantasy for a lot of people, which is a very sort of ugly way of phrasing it.
Couldn't I get that better if I actually played a game and leveled up myself?
People do like this stuff, right? People are often like like watching other people play games is a huge
that's true. That's true.
market, right? Look at Twitch, right? Twitch is just based on watching other. It's not all women with like cleavage playing a game on Twitch. Like there's a whole lot of channels that are just watching people like legit play games. My son does this. I'm too old. I don't know if I'm too old for this. I'm not enough of a gamer for this. I think if I was more of a gamer, I might get into it, but I'm not. But maybe I'm too old, even though I'm totally a gamer. Yeah. Because I love games. I love playing video games. But every time I've seen anyone playing on Twitch, I'm like, it takes me about 30 seconds to think, why don't I just go play it? Yeah. But progression is where it's really focused on the characters like powering up. Like a lot of training montages, a lot of gaining. So you need a sort of magic system where characters can go from like normal people to destroying worlds within the span of some books. So think like Dragon Ball Z, right? It's like but in literary form, Cradle is progression fantasy. So in a way, I think a lot of lit RPG is progression fantasy, but not vice versa, right? Because right, so lit RPG is progression because you're
leveling up,
but it's literal leveling up. Whereas lots of other what people call progression and not lit RPG, there's no game mechanics. Like Cradle, you never gains a level or a hit point in Cradle. Like it never says that in the text. So Wandering In is I don't remember. I've not read Wandering In.
The Wandering In isn't that I think I've heard about it, but it's also the one that hasn't ended and it's already longer than anything anyone's ever written.
One way to make a lot of money in lit RPG and progression is you go on like Royal Road and you put out the chapters, and let's just say that the audience is willing to accept a different level of like superficial quality. They don't expect really well edited text, but they want volume. The audience there wants volume. So the way to do it is you go on Royal Road and you write a chapter a day. So you're putting 2,000 to 3,000 words every day on Royal Road. You have a Patreon where they can, because Royal Road is free, they can go on Patreon, they can pay you, and they get chapters like either early or they get bonus chapters every week. But you really do, the people who say to make money on Royal Road, they really say you need to put out 5 to 7 chapters a week.
Wow.
That's 10 to 20,000 words a week. You do that for a year and you're looking at pretty close to 1 million words a year.
The Wandering In sounds like an interesting phenomenon because somebody, I forget what it was they were comparing it to. I was listening to a video recently and they were comparing it to it's already longer than The Wheel of Time by a number of thousands of words, hundreds of pages or whatever. And it's just continuing. And also interesting, like nobody knows who the author is.
Yeah, it's like
the author is completely anonymous.
Yeah, I saw an interview with one of the other booktubers, Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews.
Yeah,
he's reading The Wandering In.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. It was Philip did a Dear Dr. Fantasy with Matt. Yeah, that's what it was. That's where I saw it as well.
And Pirate Abba, who wrote Wandering In, the anonymous person, did an interview with someone.
Yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah,
I watched it.
Guys, I gotta go.
Okay, good to see you, Jerome.
See you guys next time.
So, Wandering In is really interesting. Like I was trying to write like this. I can't write a chapter a day and still work a day job.
Yeah.
Like I can write 3,000 words in a day after work, but I can't do it day after day. Like I can do it.
Sure.
Once in a while, I'll have a really good day, and
what's your day job?
I write software for the financial industry. I work for the Intercontinental Exchange. We own the New York Stock Exchange, so I work in we sell financial data.
All right.
So that's why I have very nice covers.
Because you can afford them.
Because I can afford. Yeah. Sure. And that's part of why people, I think, we're going back to your thread. I think some people feel, and I don't think you were doing this, but some people react this way when you say, to get a really good cover, you're going to have to spend over $1,000. People see that, and I don't think you were doing it, but people see it as gatekeeping. That if you're not rich, you can't get into this business, which is not what you were saying, but that's how people hear it, and that's one reason some people were upset with your conclusions, whether they were right or wrong.
No, I did. I mean, I was going into this totally naive. I was just like, I know design, and I'm curious about covers. And start telling me about things. But really, everything I saw, I could clearly divide it between below 1,000 and above 1,000, and a couple of exceptions. There were some under 1,000 where I was like, that's actually not bad.
And then you'll get the people who get their $200 cover that they love, and they can't dissociate from that enough to say, this isn't probably objectively as good as this other cover that I don't love, but I love it. And
a lot of people,
it's their thing.
A lot of people, I realized through the whole discussion, a lot of people do not have that objective evaluation at all.
Yeah.
And they don't believe that it exists even. That someone like me who's been designing shit for like decades can look at a cover and say, okay, that's objectively badly done. You know,
I can't tell.
They can't tell. So they look at it and they're like, but I like it.
Yeah.
So it's good.
I can't tell. So what I did is I hired people who work for trade.
Sure.
Like they're going to come up with something at least decent, and maybe I'm overpaying, but I'm not going to get something that's really amateurish looking. That was but that's not a great solution for most people.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just financially, it's not a good idea.
No, and I mean,
give an example of a bad cover. Oh boy,
what's a bad cover?
Well, Tornell is asking, do you have an example of a bad cover?
Oh, an example of a bad cover. See, Tornell, I kind of, when I started all of this conversation, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, some of you might not have been here. I, on Twitter, very wisely started a conversation about quality in book covers from a design point of view, being a designer who's been doing it for 25 years or more. And a lot of people were totally cool about it, and a smaller number of people were kind of pissed and thought I was being arrogant and whatever. And they're probably right. I mean, I get that a lot, actually, just the way I speak. I'm too direct sometimes. But one of my rules when I was starting all of this conversation, I made a very clear rule for myself that the only covers I will talk about by name are covers authors send me publicly that they want critique on. There are a lot of really bad covers, but I will not pull out an example. I like as the conversation has been going, and I if you didn't hear about it before, I offered authors, I said, look, I'm a designer with 25 years experience. I can give you a free critique. It'll be brutally honest and it'll be short, but maybe it's helpful. Maybe you realize that there's a problem. Okay. That is certainly a worse cover than this one.
So this was
although in the rough description, if you were to roughly describe them, they're the same.
Right? This is what's interesting. And this is one of the reasons I have trouble getting covers, because I'm not good at articulating what I want. So what I asked for,
so there's a planet, there's a guy floating in space with a spaceship behind him. And it's exactly the same. What's your problem, Joe?
Yeah, this was $350 and that was more.
Yeah. And I mean, this was the thing to me, and this is I think just you work in design for a long time. Like I'm a design director at the moment, and I have been for years. So I not only design things, I also tell younger designers who are learning how to design things, how to improve their own design. So I'm constantly looking at things that have been designed and saying, that's not good because it would be better if, I'm just like, that's half of my job. So all of these covers that people were sending me, I was just immediately going, cheap, not very professional looking cover. You could do these things if you wanted to, would be better. Or then I got something like that and I'm like, oh, a professional designed that. I see it immediately. It's obvious to me. It doesn't mean that there's maybe nothing that could be improved, but it looks like a professional cover,
I mean, the graphic designer for that works for Scholastic.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying it's the best cover ever, but
I don't know them. But as soon as I look at that cover, I'm like, someone who knows what they're doing did this, and it's just blatantly obvious to me. And a lot of people, it's not.
Right. It's
they look at a cheaper cover and they think, oh, it's good. I like it.
I can sort of tell, but I can't tell you why. Like I can't begin to tell you why. Like that's the thing, right? I can look at a cover and go, this isn't great, but I have no idea what's wrong with it. And I have no idea, which makes it hard as an author, because when I deal with artists and I try to give them briefs. And I had this I ran into this a couple other times where I give them brief and when they come back, like, that matches my brief, but that is not what I wanted. That's my fault. Right. You know, and so I have to find an artist who's going to figure out what I want despite the crappiness of my brief. And yeah, Chris McGrath is the new Hybrid Helix covers.
Yeah.
But Partial Function is not. This is J. Caleb Designs. Well, I really like it.
Chris McGrath.
That's Chris McGrath. All the Hybrid Helix ones are, but this is J. Caleb Designs.
Which is also nice.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I love that cover. But the problem with Chris is he gets booked. I can't get 3 covers. If I want to publish 3 books in a year, he will not give me 3 covers, no matter how much money I have. He's busy. Like I'm not criticizing at all. It's just he's working on he's working like I still love that once he was like, oh, I'm gonna be a couple weeks late with this cover. I have to do like the interior art for the special edition of Dune. And I'm like, you should, man. Like you go work on that. That's more important than my piddly little.
You should be doing that. Yes, please go make another awesome edition of Dune. Yes.
It's like when a girl dumps you for another guy and you're like, yeah, you should be with him. He's better.
If I was a girl, I'd date him too. That's okay. I understand.
Right? That's a better offer. Go take it. I feel bad if you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you can't hold an artist back from doing Dune.
No. Well, he does trade, and that was the worst possible way to get it. But there's a feeling among a lot of self-pub authors that I feel bad about, which is you kind of need to go spend a lot of money. You have to get a Felix Ortiz cover if you want to have a chance,
right?
And then there's a reaction. So people feel that way and it does really help that early buzz because you see it on BookTube all the time. This cover is amazing. I can't wait to read this book, and you're like. That doesn't really mean it's going to be a good book. That just means Felix doesn't read the books and go like, "Oh, I'm making covers."
I'm only doing covers for masterpieces.
Right? He's like, "Well, your check clear, and then I'll put you in my schedule." That's what Felix, right? Which isn't a criticism of Felix, but and then people feel very reaction, especially people who are writing who don't have a ton of free money, which is plenty of very excellent writers don't have a job where they can drop. $3-4 grand in a book before seeing a sale.
And that was actually, to be honest, that was part of the reason I wrote, I think, my second thread, because I was trying to give self-pub authors, especially ones who don't have your money, who can't get, Chris McGrath, like, what could you do to minimize the damage, so to speak? Like, okay, you can't hire a totally hot shit designer or illustrator, but make sure that you're not the only person that thinks the cover's good.
Right.
Yeah. Get whatever you can and show it to lots of people. Do things that can improve what you can get, and not just like be sad that you can't pay $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever.
They need to find the guy you told is undercharging.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, this guy's charging $100 and $200. Give him $500. He's going to be super happy, and he's doing awesome fucking illustration. He's doing really nice work. And if he's, it makes me angry because I used to be that guy. When I was younger and didn't realize what I was worth, I was doing freelance work for way too little money. And then I doubled my price between one job and the next for a different client. I doubled my price just to see if it would work. And the client didn't blink. And I was like, what have I been doing all these years? I can earn this. And then I talked to another friend of mine who was doing basically the same work with the same experience. She told me what she was charging a day. And I was like,
this is why
I just doubled my price and you're charging 3 times that.
Yeah.
What?
Why companies don't want us discussing salaries. This is why we have a culture where talking about our income is frowned upon, because if all the workers knew what all the other workers were making, which happens in some industries, but not in most.
Yeah.
I don't know what my coworkers make. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't really know. And it's discouraging. Anyway, that's a whole. We can talk about the evils of capitalism, but we have to get Raph on if we're going to do that.
That's true.
We need
Raph couldn't make it tonight.
Marxist malcontent on the channel if we're going to discuss the evils of capitalism.
Yeah, he would give us a half-hour lecture without breathing. nonstop about it, no problem.
Raph's the reason I have an audiobook, and the reason I'm like really upset I don't have more audiobooks.
Yeah, yeah.
I prefer audio, and I get that, but also like on a very fundamental level, which I never occurred to me, audiobooks are about accessibility for people with certain disabilities, and that is not something I thought of until. If anyone is listening doesn't know, Raph Bluetext has another lovely. I love the guy, but
yeah.
The point is he's visually he's blind.
He's blind.
Yeah. So like if you don't have an audiobook, he's not reading your book. Like he's read some stuff of mine where he's got the text to speech on his computer to do it. But
right, but that's
for a whole novel. That's hard.
That's like, a garbage experience. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
that is a crap experience. I also didn't like. I've never been interested in audiobooks myself.
Yeah.
And when I joined BookTube last year, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I read this in paperback, and then I read this in audio," and it was pretty common. A lot of people do it, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll start trying it out." But I got to know Raph, especially since he and I are in the same time zone, which nobody else is in my time zone. And I got to know him, and actually, really early on, we were chatting somewhere. And I said to him, "Look, don't take this the wrong way, but like, are you blind?" Because I saw him in his videos, and you can tell, like, blind people don't look the way, like they don't focus their eyes and
don't look the way, right?
They don't look.
They literally
use their eyes the way that seeing people do. So, but I wasn't sure. And in his videos, he just looked kind of odd. And I was like, "Dude, are you blind?" And he laughed, and he was like, "Yeah." And he told me the story.
I tend to watch YouTube videos like a booktuber. I'll like play a video game or something and just listen.
Right.
Well, I don't think I knew he was blind for many videos. I was in Malazan breakdowns, and I wasn't actually looking at his face. I was doing something else.
Okay.
And then one day he started talking about it. I was like, "Oh." Anyway, it is.
Evie, if you want, you can come back because you don't have to bathe the dog after all. But you don't have to. Yeah. Liam writes short stories, apparently. I didn't know that. Where do we access your short stories, Liam? Tornall, what do you feel about taking an already iconic picture, adding a minimal thing to it, and then sell it as an original new thing? That is theft. It's called plagiarism. I don't
know if our feelings come into it.
No, and it's just a fact. I mean, something like that. It is kind of a bit of a gray area. It depends a lot on how much you change, and if you are compensating the original artists at all. Like, this is a huge subject, obviously, in rap, sampling and all of that. And I mean, when rap started, it was basically just theft. Like, they were just ripping people off. Now there is a system in place where people get compensated, and you can buy a sample to use in your own thing, and it's released for that, and the original person gets something for it, and that kind of thing. But I mean, with visual stuff, it's a lot harder. It's like, how far are you going? If you ask anyone who runs a photo library, they don't care what you're doing with it, but you pay for the damn photo. Like, if you're just taking the photo and using it, you are ripping them off, and they will sue you, or at least charge you. So yeah, that is legally uncool. Regardless of what we actually feel about it or think about it, it's not on. The ability to find a designer who understands your vision is more important than a well-established artist who costs a bunch. Yeah, although I would say that in my experience, well-established people with experience are better at understanding what you need because they have more practice at it. I mean, exceptions exist always, but someone who's been doing it for a while, has worked with a number of different people, isn't a fresh beginner, may be better at interpreting a brief, asking the right questions, figuring out what's going on, what you really need, want. That's the next thread, actually, that I'm thinking about writing, is how to work well with creatives who are doing stuff for you, designers and illustrators.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
You also need someone who understands what they're like. understands the specifics of book covers, which is not the same. Like, for example, someone could design a cover that looks lovely on a shelf on a book, but you need a cover that looks good in a thumbnail on Amazon. If anything, that's more important.
Absolutely.
And those aren't the same
Today
thing.
it is.
Certainly.
Right.
Yeah. Those aren't the same thing. Right. So if you got someone fresh out of design school, they might not, but they might not understand exactly what those different needs are, because you have to meet them both. Actually, probably you need to meet the Amazon thumbnail is more important in certain ways.
Yeah. How does your book look at 100 pixels?
Right. You can have a lot of detail that might not come across. It's a trunk.
Needs to be a lot punchier.
Yeah.
I saw one a lady when I said, I'll give you a critique. A lady sent me one, and the JPEG she sent me was really blurry. And I was like, oh, okay, she just doesn't have a good copy with her. And then I found her on Amazon and went and looked. And she sent me the picture that was on Amazon. And the first thing I wrote her back was, update your fucking picture on Amazon. Like, get a clear, sharp, really good looking, the best quality possible picture. Put it on Amazon. Start there, regardless what your design is. Yeah, that's right. It was Obsidian something. And it was really blurry. It was a Thai lady. Who's the author?
Frost?
Yeah.
She writes it Tina Frost. That's not her Twitter.
That's not her real name. Yeah, exactly. And it was just not a good quality. Yeah, exactly. Obsidian Awakening. Yeah.
Megan's interviewed her.
Yeah. And maybe an awesome book. I have no idea, but my first impression of it was, okay, this is a low res JPEG. That's not great. But she actually, I gave her a lot of critique, and she was one of the people who was super happy about it. She was very, very grateful and said, yeah, I'm working on new covers. Anyway, I'm working on a third cover for the third book, and I'll take a lot of this into account, and that kind of thing. Let me see. Did you get the thing I keep saying to everyone right? Yes, you did.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
What did I get right?
Your name does not distract me from the title.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you can tell which is the book title and which is the series.
Yes.
That bugs me too. When you can't.
The typographic hierarchy is exactly correct on yours. It's like, this is the fucking title. By the way, it belongs to this series. And this guy wrote it. You've never heard of,
Chris suggested a graphic designer who he had worked with in trade, and Stephanie Yang, who I literally emailed this poor woman out of the blue, and she doesn't really do this stuff freelance. But I'm like, I'll pay you if you work for. She's like, okay. Usually, if you tell someone who's an artist, I'll give you money to do something, they usually say yes. So she was kind of, and she was very nice. She gave me like 8 layouts for that first book.
Oh wow, cool.
And then after that, I just decided to stick with the layout. More or less is the same for every book in the series, because I like that series continuity. But people can go either way with that. Whether they lie, I personally thought it was a good idea. And,
I think also. I mean, the other thing I always like is, shit lines up. They don't look like different books when they're next to each other on the shelf. The spine, a lot of people don't pay attention to the spine. And they're wraparounds. Yeah. Everything should be a wraparound, But again, that's also a price question. Wraparounds cost more because it's a bigger image. So, but it's so many of the covers. I wrote this, I don't know how many times people were asking for critique. And the first thing I always wrote is, do you think your name is selling books? If not, why is it the top thing in such big typography? Like George R.R. Martin, his name sells books. Put his name on anything without a title and it'll sell. But I don't think anyone knows who you are. So your name doesn't make any difference. Put it at the bottom. Make it smaller. Make your title bigger. It's lots of Lots of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love when you can put the covers together for a bigger picture. You can't quite do that with this.
Absolutely not.
No.
That requires real planning. Does Way of the Dan do that, or is it just that they really go together? No, they just really that they're thematically really similar. Like you put those three together.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
The covers. I mean, the spines are just black with white type, but the covers, they're all stained glass windows.
Yeah. But,
so it's got an extremely strong visual style, which is consistent between.
To really do it, you'd have to really work with an artist and come up with a big image early on. And you probably only want to do it for a fixed series. Like I know it's going to be 3 books. Like I'm not writing like that.
The covers that I have of Dandelion Dynasty do that. The greenish pastel sort of ones, they have a continuity through the whole thing as an image. And the stuff that I have a Broken Binding subscription, and a lot of their sprayed edges go together and make a picture. So you have a trilogy that has this totally sexy picture.
No, I love that, but then again, it's like, how the hell are you supposed to shelve those?
I have them shelved backwards, all of them. You can't see the title or the author, but there's this cool image, and it's like, yeah, what else are you gonna do?
I guess it just seems like I don't even know. I think I'd have a hard time shelving books backwards. Winds of Winter.
And it's only those. The Winds of Winter cover looks hot to me. I mean, it's really obvious. Like it's a big piece of obsidian, and it's called the Winds of Winter. So we know what's going to be happening, don't we? We're going to be having lots of dragon glass fights with the White Walkers. I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't say that much about the book, but also No, exactly. That's the thing. George R. R. Martin has moved into a space where few authors are. Everybody knows his story. Everybody knows his name. Everybody knows Game of Thrones. They've seen it on TV. They've maybe read it, maybe both. And he can do whatever he wants with the cover, and it's going to sell like hotcakes. Like as soon as Winds of Winter comes out, it's going to be a bestseller.
But to be honest, if you're smart and you're George R. R. Martin or his publisher, you're probably putting a relatively bland cover and you're selling it. And then 3 months later or 4 months later, you're putting out several more editions with leather and fancier covers.
Yeah.
And the schmucks, we schmucks will buy 3 or 4 copies of Winds of Winter.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we'll just sell that many more millions of copies.
Exactly. I've had to forbid myself looking at the Folio Society page for anything George R. R. Martin has written, because those editions are so hot, but they're also so expensive because I couldn't buy just one.
Right.
I have to buy all of them, and if I buy all of them, it's going to cost me like £600 or £700 at once. It's crazy.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Shelving backwards hurts. Yeah, no, it does. I've got the Bone Ships trilogy by R.J. Barker, which it's got a very cool image on the page edges, and it's black and white, very high contrasty black and white. It's got a ship on the ocean and on the waves, and then under the water you can see this huge sea snake something creature under the ship, and it goes across all 3 books, so it makes one image. I've got those shelved pages out because that's the way they look best, and especially for me, like as a booktuber, my shelf is mostly a background for videos. That's how I organize my shelf, not by author. I put things on there that look cool, so that it looks interesting behind me. I'm actually about to reorganize it because I just got a new shelf so that I can put more face out books behind me, like The Spear Cuts Through Water and, ones, the Dune editions. And I just bought the Folio Society Dune editions. And, you want good looking books on the shelf behind you if you're recording videos.
Yeah. I'm going to have I'm moving in a few months, and one of the criteria for the new house we bought. I needed a place to record. I needed a desk with like shelves behind me where I can put my books, my master, my comic book, the most important comic book stuff.
What's your favorite comic book?
It's not about like I have no idea. I can tell you the stuff that I loved most when I read it. Right, so like that's
okay.
Different, right? Like there's stuff that meant a lot to me because of I was at the age I was. I'm a huge Master of Kung Fu fan, Shang-Chi.
Okay.
I read those over and over again. I'm a big fan of like Jim Starlin stuff. I used to read Preacher every summer when I was a teacher.
Teacher.
Badger, I loved Badger.
Okay.
For the first comic stuff, American Flag, Nexus, and Badger were coming out from the same company at the same time. It was an amazing era to be alive.
Okay.
So Howard Chaykin, I like a lot of it. I feel like I don't know if it would necessarily age well if I reread them. Like a lot of it's like cool visuals, and I was excited about it when I was 14 or 15, but I don't know if I want to reread it. But I'm influenced by Jim. So I actually just picked up the Dreadstar. They were doing a Kickstarter for a new Dreadstar graphic novel, and I picked up the digital versions of the whole series in the Kickstarter, so I can reread Dreadstar, which I loved and I haven't read in a long time. And I'm a big fan of Invincible.
I like Invincible too. I haven't read the comics. I saw the TV show, and then I found the comics in my local comic shop, and they're like these doorstopper omnibuses. And I was like, I'm going to get that.
Story. It's a complete story. Like it's the 12 volumes, the 12 years, and it has an ending, beginning, middle, and an end. Like it's really nicely done. I really like it. Invincible was my main motivation for writing Hybrid Helix.
Okay.
Specifically, like an answer to things that I was seeing in Invincible that I wanted to keep and things I wanted to change. It's very. I mean, it's not the same. It's not this. You're not going to read it and go like, "Oh, this is the same story." It's not. But it has certain things.
A similar basic starting point in a way, as far as the character goes.
Yeah. He's got superpowers because of his dad.
He's got superpowers because of his dad. He's basically indestructible, and he wants to get out of something.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a different stage of life, right? Like
Rohan's definitely older.
Yeah. He's been in the army and left, right? Whereas Invincible he hasn't done that stuff yet.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to do these comparisons. I don't know. I did a comparison of Rohan to I can't pronounce it. Tashwe. Did you read Legend of the Brightwash by Crystal Matar?
Not yet. I just bought it on the Black Friday sale.
Really good book. But
I've heard that from everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think she was a Spiffle finalist or something. But everyone loves that book. But it's funny because the main character is like retired military, like working for sort of the evil empire, but he works for them because he feels like he kind of has to. Like, I'm not giving anything away. You get this in the first chapter.
Sure.
Right? This isn't a spoiler. But
I've read all that already.
Yeah, right. But it's like it's such a different book.
Of course.
Like, I mean, I'm recommending it, but I'm not saying it's similar in terms of writing style and everything. It's so different. But
just looking at the cover. Speaking of covers, if I look at the two covers, I certainly hope it's a really different book.
Oh, it really is. I mean, Crystal and I are nothing, but it was fun. So I did a video comparing them, like in a very superficial way. These are like the same guy, but they're so not the same experiences to read these books. Yeah. So I had fun with that. But
I've been trying to convince Matt Wagner to re-release Mage because he's just now putting out what's he calling it? The Masters edition of Grendel.
Oh yes.
I just ordered a signed and numbered copy for too much money, and it's only the Hunter Rose Grendel, like the original Grendel stories. But he also has added a bunch of stuff. There's new stuff in it, and he's doing a nice chunky hardback edition with perfectly reproduced art, and I'm like,
early Grendels, the Hunter Rose story was fantastic.
Yeah,
some later Grendel stories got sketchy. I read
a lot of the Grendel spread out too much. I've got all the omni-buy
300 years later, and it's a post-apocalyptic world, and there are Grendels running around. I'm like, I read it all. I read every issue, but I'm like, I stopped caring.
Yeah,
I want to tell Adarsh, ask him who's my motivation. My motivation is Tollywood is my motivation. The books that motivated me to write the most recently were I was inspired by movies like Bahubali and other movies from Telugu movies with these high-powered heroes and these action comedy movies where the main character is super cool and almost invulnerable. And I thought this is a story where you're never worried the main character is going to die or lose. You're just wondering how cool is he going to look pulling off his victory. And I thought that was an amazing way to drive a narrative. And people say you can't write books like that. I'm like, I'm going to try. So that was my motivation.
Yeah.
Which is not the same. Who's my favorite author? I have no idea. Yeah, Joe, we did. Britton and I had a long. We're going to talk about comics again. We are eventually going to talk about Invincible on Britton's podcast.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to go through the comics again. That's my big chore. I'm going to reread them and watch season 2 as prep for writing book 5 of the Hybrid Helix. Get my mind out of fantasy, because I've been writing fantasy for a while now.
My big one is Hellboy.
Yeah.
I've got all the library editions, like the really huge hardback black with the skulls on the spines.
Those are beautiful.
The Mignola also. I just like, as soon as back in university, I think ages ago, the first time I saw his artwork, I was like, yes, this is my comic artist. This is what I want. I just love everything he does.
So nice, so good. Yeah, Hellboy was great.
So much better than the movies. If you've only seen the movies.
Yeah. Yeah, my ringtones are all from I listen to Bollywood music exclusively when I write, and then I always pick those things for ringtones. So like on my wife calls, it plays Desi Girl, if you know the song, which is hilarious if you recognize it. People are like, why is your phone playing Desi Girl? It's my wife calling, who's pretty much a Desi Girl. So,
I was in India for, like, I was a tourist, but I was basically living there for 3 months.
Ooh.
I had a small flat in different places. I was traveling around, but I was basically I was just like in India for a long time.
Nice.
And in India, the only music that you hear is the current popular music movie soundtrack. Everywhere. So you go into a restaurant and it's playing, and you get on the bus and it's playing, and you go into another restaurant and it's also playing. And, so there was I don't remember what it was called, but there was a movie. This was back in, 98. I was there. There was a movie. I don't speak Hindi. I didn't understand a word of the songs, but I could sing them all because I just heard them so many times. I'm on like an 8-hour bus trip, and they're just playing the soundtrack on loop of this one movie.
What's good about it is because I don't speak Hindi or as music, it just like gets me kind of energized for writing, but it doesn't interfere with the writing process. Like the lyrics don't seep in because they don't. To me, it's just syllables. So like other writers I know are
distracting.
Like they listen to instrumental music or like jazz or something. Vignola did some Guy from the Grey Mouser covers.
Yeah, I've seen those. They're gorgeous.
Yeah. He's so
I just love his work.
He's so talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bucket list thing. Right? I used to think I would make a lot of money as a writer, and I had these dreams, and one among them was getting some of my favorite comic book artists to do commissions of my characters. Even if I didn't even know if I was going to use it for a cover or whatever,
sure.
Just to have, but maybe one day. I want to get Steve Rude to do a Rohan, which I could actually do. Like he takes commissions, he's still drawing.
Sure.
So, one of these
Mignola's still drawing as well, and Matt Wagner as well. I don't know what Mignola takes for a commission, but yeah, you don't want to wait too long because he's not that young anymore.
Yeah, none of these guys are young anymore. These are anyone who was drawing when I was really into my formative comic reading years were the 80s. So
yeah, me too.
Anyone who's a professional artist in the 80s is not young anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
blend of Kirby and Ditko with German expressionism with his style. I mean, the thing that blows me away with Mignola, and especially with the library editions. If you don't, I would get one down, but they're right at the top of my shelf. The library editions of Hellboy they're the tallest books I own, right? They're really big, and they're these thick black hardcovers, and they took all of the digital scans of all the artwork and just blew it up. So it's exactly the same artwork. It's just bigger than it's ever been published anywhere else. And sometimes I'll just open those and just look at them, because there are a lot of his best frames. There's almost nothing in them. Like Hellboy is like, if you averaged out, if you scanned all the pictures of the whole series and averaged them out, Hellboy is like 75% solid black with no shading. The whole series. And he's got these frames where it's like the whole frame is like 75% black. And then there's one color, and it still has a mood, and it's still, you know exactly what you're looking at, and you're scared of it. You know, I mean, it's so good. It's so good. I love him. I love him.
Yeah. I wish I had the artistic ability to even look at that and go, I know why this works or how it works. And I don't. Okay. I'm not going to learn, right? I'm not going to spend the time to figure this out, because I don't need to, but as a writer, I can usually figure out when I'm reading something, why something works or doesn't work.
Sure.
And how it's done. But I look at art and it's like, I love this. I don't know why. Like,
we can do a stream one day and I can explain it to you, because I have that vocabulary. This is what I've been doing for like 25 years, 30 years, is looking at visual things and explaining why they do or don't work.
Well, that's why I think what you were doing with the covers was valuable. Whereas someone like me, like I could look and go like thumbs up, thumbs down, but that's not that helpful.
Sure.
Because that's all I can do.
If you say thumbs down, what do I do then?
Yeah, you know? Like I can't. Yeah. But you were providing like specifics, like this should be larger or smaller. This type is too busy or whatever, and it means something. Whereas a lot of other people might be able to go, yeah, that's good and that's not good, but then we're done. You know, which is fine, but you know.
Britain, I would disagree with you. His magnum opus is not the corpse; it's pancakes. That's actually a joke. There's a Hellboy short which goes back to when Hellboy was a child, and they take him to a diner and give him pancakes. He calls them pancakes. They have to feed him something, and they give him pancakes. And Hellboy apparently loves pancakes. So and it's really cute, but it's not his magnum opus. Yeah, the corpse is probably one of the best bits that he ever did. The corpse is amazing. It's a story where Hellboy has to carry around a corpse on his back until midnight or until dawn. I don't remember. And he has to find where the corpse should be buried before a certain time. And it's so good. There's one particular page which has only got a couple of frames on it, where it's hard to explain without like actually showing it. It's him. He's just standing there. There's like nothing happening in all of these frames. Basically, it's just him standing there, and you see him. He's leaning on a post, and there's an arm at the top of like a wooden arm at the top of the post, and a broken rope, and the rope is swinging back and forth. And you see the rope swinging back and forth, and then you see a close up on his wrist, and then you see the same frame again, but there's a corpse hanging from the rope. And it's just this like time passing as you go through the panels. And then all of a sudden there's this corpse. It's just brilliantly done. It's so good.
My problem, what I love in a story is this sense of continuity and like change over time and like things tying together. Like, and I always felt like I didn't get enough of that out of Hellboy. I didn't get enough of a it felt like a series of shorts about the same character. Like this is a cool story.
Yeah.
Another cool story.
If you read the whole thing though, like the whole Hellboy story, there is a lot of progression. Okay. When it was coming out in individual issues, it was really hard to follow because there'd be like a short story and you're not really sure how it's connected to anything else and whatever. But especially with the library editions, which like together are this big, there's 6 of them or 7 of them. If you read that all the way through, like Hellboy is the apocalypse in a way. That's kind of why he's on Earth, is he's meant to start the apocalypse and all of that. And it's him developing and choosing between monster or human over and over again. And it progresses and gets really serious, and he goes to hell at some point, and all this stuff happens. And it does have a big overall story. But like I said, I also when I was getting the individual issues and it was coming out, it felt very disjointed. But if you've got
that's my problem, because that's how
the whole thing just there and you can read through it, then it feels a lot more straight up.
I'm trying to think the last I might have only really read them when they came out, and then like one time since. Hellboy in Hell is fantastic.
Duncan Fegredo, like he's been like art wise, I haven't actually got any of the issues. I want to get Giant Robot Hellboy, which he's doing at the moment. I think it's actually it's a series that's running right now. He's doing some really hot, like visual work. He's doing some really, really nice stuff. I've been following him on Twitter, and he's posting pictures every now and then. And he's definitely doing some good stuff. Listen, it is just past 11 here.
Wow.
In the evening. We've been doing this for 2 hours, a bit more than 2 hours. It has been a pleasure to hang out with you, Joe.
You too.
Last man standing.
Yes. I have the least outside life to drag me. My son is with his girlfriend. He's like, he's not going to need me for a while.
No, I don't think so.
He doesn't want to see me. So
not only is he not going to need you, but he's going to actively not want you around.
Yeah.
For a while. So
I'm very clear on that. Thanks so much for having me and for
pleasure.
Thing.
You're welcome anytime. For anybody who doesn't already know, I am on the Grimoire Discord, and I post links in my channel. I have a Mad on Books channel on the Grimoire Discord. I post links every weekend. Anyone is welcome to join on screen, up to a reasonable limit of number of people, but I think StreamYard cuts you off at 10 anyway. I had 10 people on once. Which was chaotic. But yeah, you don't have to be an author. You don't have to have a BookTube channel. You don't have to be my best friend or anything like that. Anyone who considers themselves a friend of the channel is welcome to join. And I try and do it every Sunday around 8 or 9 p.m. my time, which is minus 6 hours East Coast US time. And I just love the hanging out and getting to know people. And it was a pleasure to have you on. And everybody else, all of you in the comments who stuck around. It's gone from like 30 people to 7 now. So understandably, a few people have drifted off. We are also going to drift off now. I'm going to go cut my video that has to go online tomorrow. Which is a vlog of reading the first book of Lord of the Rings. So you can look forward to that if you're interested, Lord of the Rings fans. And I will see you all next Sunday.
Take care.